Hey everyone, I'm Mike Settele, the founder of Settele Tutoring, and in this lesson I'm going to talk about what it takes to get a 600 in the reading section of the SAT. So we'll give you some things to memorize, some ways to strategize, and I'll give you some rough estimates of how many you can get wrong in order to get a 600. Now, to put that score in context, a 600 is an above average score. Most colleges would be very happy to have some numbers in the 600s. It's not that the 500s are bad, but they're kind of just average. They're nothing to get excited about. So if you could hit that 600 mark, especially if you are planning to study for the SAT, this is kind of like the bare minimum you want to get, and I'll show you ways to kind of maximize the chance that you get to that number. So let's start with things to memorize, all right? So the grammar is probably the best place to start. You got to know the punctuation marks. You got to be able to answer this question. What does a semicolon do? What does a colon do? Dashes, apostrophes, what do they do? If you can't answer that question, well, then you're not going to get a lot of grammar questions right. And I'm not going to answer that question here because I already have much longer, much more detailed videos on all of these things on my channel. So go to my channel homepage. You will find all the resources for the things I talk about in this video. This is just meant to be kind of like a table of contents checklist to get you started. You got to do the work and actually learn these things through much more rigorous means using my channel and other resources. But the punctuation marks are a great place to start. Also in grammar, make sure you are comfortable identifying singular and plural pronouns and singular and plural verbs. Those rules are generally pretty easy, and it's just about knowing the difference and how the language works to identify those. A harder goal might be to learn some new vocabulary. These are what I would call argument words. They help us understand whether we're supporting an idea or going against an idea, whether we have evidence, whether it's a hypothesis or a guess, whatever. And so these are just a small sampling of words that I think are important. This is not a finite list. Words like undermine, speculate, consensus, mitigate, ambiguous are all important to know. And I think they kind of pose like a really good test right off the bat to see whether you have the vocabulary that you need and the reading comprehension skills you need to get that 600. So if you don't know what those words mean, that's not a good sign. Now, there might be a good reason for that. Maybe English isn't your first language, and yes, these are not words you would probably encounter until you've gotten more advanced English skills, but go look them up. I'm not going to define them here, but go look them up, and as you study for the SAT, get in the habit of looking up any word that you cannot confidently define. Now, if you are a native English speaker and you don't know those words, I hate to break it to you, but your reading comprehension level probably is not what it should be for an 11th grader. These are all words an 11th grade student should really know if English is their first language. They're not that hard of words, so you probably are not reading as much as you should. Get newspapers and magazines and get in the habit of reading consistently, and you will naturally encounter these words. But anytime you get to a word you don't know, you have a dictionary pretty much all the time with your phone. So just look up words and get in the habit of learning new things. This is not just important for the vocabulary questions, but you won't understand a lot of passages if you don't know words like this because they tell us a lot about the structure of the argument that the passage is making. Now, maybe an easier vocabulary goal is to learn the top 20 transition words. Words like thus, consequently, nevertheless. We need to have definitions of those ready to go. Again, I have a lesson on that you can see on my channel about all the transition words. That's really important for getting those questions right. We need to know what the words mean. Now let's talk strategy though, because if you just memorize a bunch of facts, that's not going to get you a 600 on the SAT. We need to be able to put those facts into good practice using the kinds of things that the SAT is asking. So start with the grammar questions in every reading module. This is a pacing strategy I talk about in another video about the pacing for the entire test, but basically the grammar questions are halfway through the reading module, about number 15. If we can start with those and get a bunch of questions right away, that locks in a lot of points and helps us get through the easiest stuff without running out of time. We also need to know how to play the outline game. The outline questions are at the end of each reading module. They're very, very easy. The reason people get them wrong is they just don't know how to play the game. They don't know the rules of how those questions work. If you watch my lesson on that, it should become really easy to lock in those points consistently. The most important strategy for the reading section, though, are dumb summaries. You need to be able to write them very confidently and trust that they will work. And this is specifically going to apply to the questions that are about vocab, the passages, the transitions. This is where the dumb summaries really work. And dumb summaries are the first lesson of my free SAT strategy series. So go and watch that. It is really good. It'll get you started. But this is a major way to simplify those passages for you so that you're not getting all caught up in the details. Then a little bit more advanced than that, we need to understand how the SAT comes up with trap answers to try to trick us, specifically words that involve quantifying things or comparing things. Those really make me nervous when I see them in answer choices. I have a whole lesson on the trap answers, and those two categories in particular should help you on the passages enough that even if English is not your first language or you're not a very strong reader, you should be able to get enough of them right to get yourself in the 600s. So let's talk numbers. How many are we allowed to get wrong to get a 600? So this is just an estimate. You can read the note right there. Basically, every test is different. Questions are not worth the same amount, so this is going to vary, but this is a kind of rough idea of what you need to do. The most important thing is you have to get into the hard second module. So that means you really can't get more than 5 questions wrong in module 1. You can get 6, you maybe can get 7, but it starts getting really, really risky. 5 is very conservative. That should basically guarantee entry into the hard module. And if you get more than that wrong, you're just lowering the chance that it works out. And if you get stuck in the easy second module, that really caps your score. You're not really going to be able to get over a 600, even if you get every single question right in that second module. So it's very limiting if we're not in the hard module. But on top of that, I think we need to be even more conservative with the number we get wrong. My recommendation is really just 3 wrong in the first module. So the reason I think that that is doable is, yes, there will be hard questions in the first module. We can hopefully just maybe get those wrong, but more important than that, because there are fewer hard questions in the first module, we're going to have more time to work on things and to try to get through some of those hard questions. So the easy questions, the medium questions, we need to be getting all those right. And yes, then you will have to have some hard questions, and you'll hopefully have the time to really read those passages, look for strong words and trap answers, and get those things right. So that will reduce the number of wrong answers that you can get in the first module. But in the second module, then we have a lot of flexibility. And this is where we're going to need it, because it's the same number of questions, the same amount of time, but the questions are overall much, much harder, and it's noticeable. So luckily, though, we can get about 10 wrong and still get into the 600s on our overall score. So 10 wrong, there's 27 questions in each reading module. So that's over a third of the questions you're allowed to get wrong. That's going to feel really bad as you're taking the test, but it can still get you a decent score in the end. And so we want to make sure we get the stuff that we have more control over, like the grammar, the transitions, the outlines, a little bit of the vocabulary. But yes, there will be some hard passages that you just do not understand. You can get a lot of those wrong and be totally fine. So this is meant to just reassure you that even though that hard module feels really bad, don't panic. You're allowed to get a lot wrong and still get into the 600s. So hopefully this gave you a lot of things to think about. Remember, this video was just meant to be a checklist of things to do on your way to that 600. I have plenty of videos on my channel that get into the specific things you need to learn, the strategies you need to use. So make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel, because I still am making new stuff. So if you subscribe, you will know, and then it will help you along your way. I'll put some important links from my channel in the description, but just go to the homepage and scroll down. You will see all sorts of stuff very well labeled about what you need to do. Once again, I'm Mike Settele. I hope this helped. Remember, when it comes to your scores, don't settle for less, Settele for more. Thanks for watching.